Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today we are talking to Justin and Jennifer Eller about their brand new book that just came out, Widowed and Moving Forward, Managing Grief, Dating, and Blending Families. So they're going to give us some insights on that. So let's bring them on in.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
All right. So first, your book just came out, and it is available where books are sold online, right?
Right.
Yes.
It's available
Okay.
on Amazon.
Perfect. Okay, so I think one of the reasons why your book is so intriguing to me is you really hit three big things: and managing grief, and then when do you date again, and how do you blend your families and help them through this. So I know that even though you two are coming from a perspective of being widowed, and both of you were widowed, and then you met each other and started dating, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And I think, go ahead.
we both lost our spouses pretty close together. And I had decided for sure I would never date again. That was just my bottom line decision. And he kind of felt the same way. So when we moved from the grief into dating, it was rather quick for us. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, there was no plan. It happened.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is especially true when you're widowed, but I think even coming from my own personal experience, coming from being divorced, I think that deciding how you're going to start dating again gets really tricky. But I want to back up just 1 second to your grief, because especially right now in today's world, a lot of us are facing grief for many different reasons. What were some tools that you used with yourself working through your grief and helping your children? I'll start with Jen.
Okay. Well, in the very beginning stages, you're in a state of shock. And so you keep your expectations low and you just do what you need to day to day to get by, to help your children, to comfort them. You get a lot of help from family and friends and people that you know. They all want to help serve you, and you give them that opportunity so that you really can give 100% to your kids.
Yeah.
And there's no timetable. Everyone's different. So being patient with yourself and taking it a day at a time.
Absolutely. And Justin, when you were to a point where you thought you would want to date again, how did you know? How did you get to that place and go, maybe I'll give this a shot?
Well, the idea made me sick for a long time, but I had kind of an experience in prayer where I was 42 and I was looking at the prospect of having all my kids out of the house by the time I was 48. And it was just a depressing thought. I put a lot of prayer into it, and I felt like, from the other side, that my late wife was okay with it. I don't know where that feeling came from, but it was strong enough to where I could date and not just, feel bad about what I was doing.
Yeah. And what about you, Jen? Because you also mentioned you didn't think you would ever want to date again.
So we met on an online support group for widows. And so we had both, about within a few months of each other, had joined that page. And it was really nice to just hear from other widows or people who were divorced and trying to get back out there, just what they could do and how they handled it. And I saw a post that he made one night and thought, wow, he's kind of cute. And I was surprised by those feelings, because here I was over 40 and decided that was it for me. And then, maybe so. So we started talking and talked late into that night, and then
within like 9 days we met each other. I came out from California to meet her.
And he lived in California and I lived in Utah. So we had met online and then met at downtown Salt Lake City.
And on our first day we missed curfew and the kids were really angry.
Yeah, so our kids were not, and they have always been behind, because it's hard for them to accept that your parent might have feelings for someone else. And so the dating and introducing that idea to your kids is pretty hard. So we just jumped in and we had our first date. And when I got home, it was past midnight, and my kids said, well, how did it go? And I said, well, fine. Yeah, it was good. good. He's really nice. And I said, did you kiss him? I said, yeah. They're like, Mom! They freaked out. They were like, a first date? I can't believe you did that. And I felt so badly that I just called Justin the next day and said, I just don't think we can do this. And so his response was,
we had a great time last night. Why don't I come over and meet your kids?
Yeah. So since we were out of town to come and meet them, it made them feel a little bit like, okay, this is a nice guy. He's not scary or threatening or anything like that.
And how old were your kids, Jen, at this time? Were they teenagers or how?
My youngest had just turned 9, and then 13, 15, and 17.
Okay, so they were older. They were old enough to understand what happens when you go on a date.
Exactly.
And what about you, Justin? How old were your kids?
I had a 13, or is she 12? 13, 16, and 17-year-old. So none of them had graduated high school or middle school at the time.
Yeah.
Plus their mom.
Yeah. And so you guys dated. Clearly it worked out. Yeah. How did you move from we're dating now to we're talking about marriage, and how do you break that to your kids? I know when I was getting ready to get remarried, and I stumbled all the way through that process. So I'm curious how you guys managed it, because I think for anyone else out there that's looking at getting remarried, maybe you can offer us some words of wisdom.
Well, what I did was I told my kids that we were serious, that we were probably going to get engaged. And I told them I would appreciate your support in this. I didn't ask for their permission. It's something that I told them that I prayed about and received an answer about. And I knew it was difficult for them, but all I asked for was them to trust me. And, their answers would come when they would come.
Yeah. And what about you, Jen?
Well, my kids were the same as his. We started to try to do things to have them meet since we were long distance. So we started FaceTiming on Sundays, and the kids kind of met for the first time over FaceTime, which was a great way to not be as nervous and, a little bit apprehensive. And so we did that for a while, and then I would take trips out there, he would take trips out here, and then
it was expensive.
They got to know each other. They made a Snapchat group called the Ellertons, which is like a hybrid of Winterton and Ellers. So they got kind of in their own way. They got familiar with each other, and then more familiar with the idea of us becoming a family.
Yeah. Okay. So I love your guys' wedding picture. So we're going to pull up a wedding picture of you guys right now so we can see. There you go. So you guys have 3 kids on Justin's side, 4 kids on Jen's side.
Yes.
And so tell us, so now you're married. Give us a couple of good tips on how do you manage blending families. And for all of our viewers out there, these tips and all of these things are obviously in more detail in their book, Widowed and Moving Forward. So before you give us the tips, let me just pull up the bigger picture of their book cover so you can see it. It's a beautiful cover. And let's hear some tips on blending families, because this is tricky for anyone that's ever tried this. It can be a little tricky. So go ahead, guys. Let's bring you back and give us some tips.
Well, the first thing that we had to do was get tips from somebody else, and we couldn't find a book that could help us. And so we actually FaceTimed couples who were actually blending themselves, and had a series of questions. Got a lot of
awesome.
From them.
And then we decided that basically we would celebrate the similarities that the kids had, and also celebrate the differences. Just because something's different doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different, because they also they're growing up time by 2 different parents than the one who's trying to do the work now.
Yeah. And one thing I want to make sure we get in there, because you guys, I chatted with you a little bit beforehand. Talk to me about traditions for a minute, because I know that you guys had some good ways to help with traditions.
Yeah, well, that's something that widows and widowers talk about a lot, because they feel like you've got to develop new traditions. I personally don't think that you have to throw everything out that you did in the holidays and create just, a completely new atmosphere. There were some things that Jen's family did every year, and my family did every year. One of them was New Year's Eve, or no, Christmas Eve. You open one, you open one present and open all the rest of them the next night.
Yeah.
And so we kept doing that, and like she said, gingerbread houses. Instead of making one, we made two together.
Yeah.
So we just kind of built on some of the traditions that we had, and as we've been together, new ones have come about just kind of seamlessly.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you have held on to some of the ones that your family has loved, and then you've also gotten some new ones. So for our viewers out there, if you, of course, want to learn more about this, make sure you check out their book, Widowed and Moving Forward, Insights on Managing Grief, Dating, and Blending a Family. So their book is available online, anywhere you can go find that. And you can check out more of their social media and other places on our credit screen that's going to come up in just a second. And thank you for watching The Book Break. We'll see you next time.